It's all for you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End of discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun. Not
After countless thousands of hours of love and dedication, we're now ready to release a much anticipated African fantasy epic, Makeda, the Queen of Sheba. I create all of my illustrations using a custom 3D process and technology to give these books a look and feel not typically experienced in children's literature. Along with the exciting and emotional story of Makeda, I touch on something I call
Makeda's 9 laws of leadership: family, respect, responsibility, belief, education, action, creativity, communication, resilience.
What's going on, everybody? This is Ishmael from Dad Is Not a Noun. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm here chilling in Pennsylvania. I have a special guest. This brother is a dope brother. He is so dope that I'm going to let him introduce himself because I see him as a Renaissance man. And the conversation we're going to have about is value. And what I mean by value is understanding your worth as a creator. So I'm going to let this brother introduce himself. Go ahead, brother. Let the people know who you are.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Marlon McKenney. I'm from San Francisco, California, and I'm basically a designer, creative director, animator, illustrator, and I started my own publishing company called Conscious Culture Publishing.
Dope, man. So before we get into this deep conversation,
Right?
tell me a little bit about yourself personally.
Okay, cool. So if anybody, for all the people out there, I'm a creative. I was born a creative. I grew up in San Francisco. I was one of the kids that was always drawing when I was in school throughout my life. Later on, I ended up going to art school. After graduating art school, I learned digital art. So if you can imagine, I was first, sketching in the back of the class and drawing superheroes. And then I went from that to designing websites, doing animation, working for a lot of big brand companies. I can sit up here and name drop, but I'm not. A lot of advertising agencies, video game companies, the biggest ones on the planet. And now after a while, after doing that, I started thinking to myself, how can I really kind of give back to my community? I've done so much for all these corporate, companies are making billions of dollars. And what am I doing for my community? And so that's when I came up with putting out diverse, multicultural, children's books through my own imprint, which is called Conscious Culture Publishing. And just one thing to keep in mind, the thing about these particular illustrations, they're all done using 3D technology. So instead of just drawings and paintings, this is all done using state-of-the-art software that you would see, Pixar, Disney, and they're all people of color, specifically ancient African history type of stories.
And that's dope, bro, because I'm a big believer of affirmation and representation. I think that's important, especially as a development as a child, seeing yourself in cartoons, in video games, in action figures. So going back to your childhood, right? Who was your first Black action figure? Do you remember?
I can remember. And the funny thing about this is, and this is going to age myself, but it's also super dope. My first action figure that was a person of color was actually a Muhammad Ali little action figure. And man, I love that thing. It came with the boxing gloves. Matter of fact, when he lost, I think to Spinks, I mean, I was just a little kid. I was crying, just crying my eyes out. But definitely Muhammad Ali. And the funny thing is, at the time, there was this show called The $6 Million Man. I don't know if anybody
remember that, yes.
from back in the day. So that was like the only type of stuff would be out there. So I had a $6 Million Man action figure. But at the time, Enter the Dragon came out with Bruce Lee. And I was like, oh, man. I took my mom's nail polish and put these red streaks across his face so he'd look like Bruce Lee when he got cut from that dude in Enter the Dragon. It was like, he turned into my Bruce Lee doll. You know what I'm saying?
That's
for real.
Man, because my fondest memory was, you're probably my age, or I might be a little bit older, was those sports action figures that could move. Like you had the Jordan, you had like Magic, and they were on like this little stick.
Yeah.
That was like one of my, I wouldn't say my first, but that was one of my memorable, like I would consider them like action figures. But my first actual action figure was Junkyard Dog. Because you remember
with the chain.
Remember that rubber wrestling? Yes.
Yeah. I remember Junkyard Dog, WWF back in the day. I was checking him out. He had the chain around his neck, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. And he was like,
right? But yeah, that was my first action figure, and that meant a lot. That meant a lot to me to see someone like myself, and that meant a lot. But also, what was your first Black comic book, or a comic book which had a Black character in it?
That's funny. It would probably, if I'm thinking about it, it'd probably be the X-Men and Storm. That was probably the biggest one that I remember. Of course, Iron Fist? Is that
Iron Fist?
Yeah. Iron Fist as well, but I wasn't. He was on DC, wasn't he?
No, I think he was Marvel.
Yeah, at the time, I mean, I was more of an X-Men fan because just the whole thought of mutants, it kind of reminded me, you know what I'm saying? Like people of color, like people with special powers, but the larger community is kind of going against them because they have these special powers. And it felt, I don't know, like a lot like the African-American experience. And it would get real, a lot of like civil rights type of issues would come up. So that's why I did like X-Men, and probably Rogue. She was dope, controlling the weather. I always thought that was real cool. But yeah, I think so. That's probably right. What about you?
Me, when it came to my first Black character,
I
would have to go back to, because I'm old, 1984, The Secret Wars. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know, like, the original Iron Man in that comic book was Black. Because what happened was Tony Stark had a drinking problem.
Sounds like real life.
And so I'm probably gonna get his name wrong, but I think his name. Hold on, let me. Yeah,
it's all good.
It's but he took over Iron Man, and that was like the first time you saw like a Black character, because he took off his helmet,
right,
and had a conversation with Fantastic Four, and said, were you shocked that I wasn't Tony Stark? And I think it was Mr. Rogers, Steve Rogers. And he's like, no, and played it off like it was nothing. You're a hero, so you're. So that I would say that was the first one. I don't know what happened to that comic book, but that was like the first one. That kind of shows my age right there.
Yeah, no, right. I'm not going to go on a Secret Wars tangent, but I thought that that's probably something they'll eventually do in film, because that was a crazy, powerful story. It was 1 of 12, right? It's like 12 issue piece.
And it came with action figures. Yes.
Yeah. That was a crazy series, The Secret Wars, and it's only a matter of time. I think they're going to probably have to dust off the vaults and pull that back out, because it was crazy though the way they.
That was the first time they introduced the symbiote Spider-Man. That was the first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Spider-Man was in that one.
Exact Spawn, because that's when he ended up finding it in that other world or whatever. Yeah. So yeah.
But if you had a chance to rewrite a Black Avengers, who would be your 4 original members?
Oh, that's funny. So I'm glad you gave me some time to actually think about this. You know, because I needed a hot second, because I had to really think about it. But I came up with 5, and well, of course I had to put in 2. So just to let people know out there, 2 of my books, The Genius of Egypt, and I just came out with a recent one called Makeda, the Queen of Sheba. So of course I got to put those 2 in there. Because I've already written stories about them and already understand kind of like their thinking and how powerful they could be. So the Queen of Sheba, Imhotep, more of the other 2. So I was thinking Pam Grier.
Okay.
You know what I mean? With the afro pulling out the strap, knocking things out.
I can see that.
You know what I'm saying?
I can see that.
And then I thought of maybe like instead of like Professor X style, more like Malcolm X style, because he's such a thinker, you know what I mean? Yeah. So he'd be up there thinking, trying to figure it all out. And then the last but not least, I'd probably pull someone like Shaka Zulu, you know what I mean? Traditional African, South African, you know what I mean? Bare chest out there, just crashing fools.
Yeah, I like that. I like that balance, because that's just the one thing, is that when you create a group of heroic figures, you have to have a balance. They all have to have their own unique traits, but when you put them together, they just badass together.
Right. And the funny thing is, I also was thinking, I was like catching myself, because at first it was like 1 female and then 4 dudes, and I was like, know what I'm saying? I need to mix the energy up, because even when you do have a team, you need it to be mixed up. You can't have it too predominantly anything, because you're not going to get the full capabilities of that team if it's not diverse. You know what I'm saying? With different ages and sexes and all that stuff.
Facts, man. For me, historically, I would start with Marcus Garvey.
Oh,
because Marcus Garvey is a badass.
Yeah, man.
The second would be Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
Because if you study her history, if you study her historically, she played a critical role in the Civil War. She played like she was like a spy, and kind of helped the North win. So I would say Harriet Tubman.
Yep.
The third person, I would have to say, I would need like a scientist. So I would have to say, oh my God, man, this is tough.
Because
it's so many people that you want to put on that list,
right?
But at the same time, you want to balance it, I'm trying to think. Oh my God. It's killing me.
It's all good. We can come back to it if you need some time, figure it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna need some time. I'm gonna need some time. Towards the end of the show, I'll give my list. With all that information and representation, I want to go to the word value. As a content creator, what does value mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, specifically for me, what I perceive is value may be different than what corporate America perceives as value. So obviously, when we're talking about value for corporate America, we're talking about money, right? That's the only thing that moves the needle. It doesn't matter if the content is destroying children. It doesn't matter if the content is blasphemy, just in terms of lies or anything. If it makes money, corporate America will they'll put their capital behind it, to make more capital, right? But me, I mean, the most value I feel is when I put my content out there and people hit me up, whether it's a mother or a father, saying, hey, this book is changing my child's life. And I have gotten those emails, and I've had people hit me up on Instagram. This one woman was like, my son is like 10 years old, but he hates to read. He hates to read, but he can't put down that Genius of Egypt book because it's just making him feel more empowered. And that's my whole thing. I want to make sure that Black kids out there know a good sense of their history and also understand that they can do whatever they want. Whatever they want to do out there, they can do it. And this is not just specifically entertainment, you know, when I'm just saying things that they can do. They can become anything, you know what I mean? You know, you hear the cliche doctors, lawyers, and all that stuff. But no, I'm even talking about head of film studios. And you talk about sports, like forget being the sport guy, be the agent. Because the agent's going to be around when the sport guy's leg breaks, and he's going to be making money till he's an old man. So don't just think beyond this narrow way of thinking in terms of what people of color can do just in terms of their careers. There's so much opportunity out there, and I just want to be clear that kids can do anything that they would put their mind to.
And you're doing that, brother, because when you build it, they'll come. And I want to congratulate you on your successful campaign on Makeda. Can you kind of talk about that? Because when I heard about that project we're doing, I was thinking about, I don't know if you remember that song by Les Nubian.
Yep. A lot of people saying that as well.
From France, with Makeda Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought about that. They badass.
Yeah. Yeah.
But can you kind of talk about the process of creating this amazing character, this real character that a lot of people don't know, and put it in a way where it's entertaining, but it's informative too?
Absolutely. So after I finished my last book, which was Uptown Dragon, which takes place in Brooklyn, I wanted to create a character that was a strong female lead. And so I was just doing some research, going on the web, going in the library, and the Queen of Sheba kind of popped out at me because there was this woman that was respected across the board, totally respected during a time when mostly kings were ruling stuff. And it was all about her. So then I did a little bit more research, and all the research that came up, they always included her with the King Solomon from the Bible. So just to roll the tape back just a little bit, if you do a Google search, you'll see Makeda is in the Bible. She's mentioned also in the Quran. She's mentioned like throughout the world is this legendary figure, right? But every time they talk about it, it's always in conjunction with falling in love with King Solomon, right? And I was like, yeah, that's cool or whatever, but how did she become queen in the first place?
Right.
Like that's the real story, like how did she from a kid have to, pull up her bootstraps? And when people are like thinking she's just some woman that can't do anything, how can she earn the respect of an entire kingdom as well as her soldiers and all of her men? So I was like, now that's the story right there. So for a while I did some research, and all of 2020, it was pretty bad for everyone out there, right? Because of COVID. But this was very cathartic for me, and it helped me kind of process what's going on. So I was just literally working on this story all of 2020 like crazy because I couldn't go out, couldn't do anything. And it was a lot I was going through. So I wanted the story to feel emotional and also not be just some easy, simple story where, you start from point A and you get to point B or C and it's just one step. That's not how life works, right? Life is full of ups and downs, turns, lefts and rights. So I wanted to add that to that story, as well as have a strong female hero for young girls out there. That was my main mission in putting together that story.
Then also talk about the illustration, and from illustration to animation, and how you kind of on point of making a depiction of Black people, because in history, the Black face and the negative stereotype images back in the days. So can you kind of talk about your that process of create the illustration of Black characters into the animation work and try to get it to make it a realistical feature? These features than the stuff that the colonizers put out there and put in our face.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And with that being said, even in the book, I wanted to create even different shades of black people because we're not all just the same color. We're all different colors within people of color, right? And I wanted to make sure that this felt like a story that was from Africa. These are African people because it takes place in Ethiopia. So if we just want to get, really real about it, it takes place in Ethiopia. And I also leverage a lot of like the the look and feel of past emperors like Haile Selassie, bring in those red, gold, and green colors on the flag as well. And even just the features, making sure just in terms of their noses and their mouths and everything that it felt very African. But at the same time, then this is one thing that Hollywood usually gets wrong, but people like we're talking about coming to America gets right is showing African royalty. You know what I'm saying? Showing African excellence. For so many years, they've been just trying to push down our throat that Africa is this place with just deserts and people are broke and got no money and trying to disassociate us from being African. But no, we have a huge, great legacy that kids really need to learn about. And that's also what I really wanted to do when putting together, just like black excellence, black royalty, just gold and just dripped in cash and loot and power. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the vibe that I'm just trying to come with. So kids reading that and just like, yeah, and just feeling that energy of coming from royalty.
And going to royalty, going back to the value question, right?
Yeah.
As a business entrepreneur who has his own publishing company,
yeah,
what's the difference between inclusion and diversity when it comes to everything that we're talking about?
Well, I'll just say it from my perspective. So let's start with diversity, right? Diversity is just basically saying including all the different cultures and different people all over the world, right? You got African people, you got Asian people, you got Polynesian, Persian, you know what I'm saying, Latino, Indian. You've got all these different types of people and cultures and history all over the world. And now with the internet, we're even more connected, right? So the thought of inclusion is just for so long, we've only been seeing one narrative of European, one little small slice of what's going on in the world. And because, through a lot of historical things of people dying and getting robbed and, like a lot of treachery and stuff like that, we're only seeing that particular story. And so my thought is diversity is just all the different cultures, peoples, religions, and everything. And then inclusion is like, y'all need to start telling the complete story. You know what I'm saying? You're just telling one little slice of it, not the whole story. I hope that made sense.
No, definitely. To me, you as an entrepreneur, I see the importance of inclusion more because inclusion is asking someone to dance. Diversity is inviting someone to the party. Inclusion is asking someone to dance.
Right.
As a owner of a publishing company, you can just create your own stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to anybody to create or beg or plead major companies. Can you make this? You could say, you know what? Fuck that. I could make my own shit.
Exactly.
Put it out to the masses. And I think that's a big dynamic of the difference between inclusion and diversity. Because with inclusion, you can create your own market value on what you create. Diversity to me is like your value is based on the marketplace. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that inclusion matter is important because like we were talking about earlier, coming to America, the second one sold to Amazon for what? $160 million, right?
Yeah.
I told a lot of people they got lowball. And they're like, what are you talking about? Then you have this Netflix who bought Knives Out 2 and 3 for $420 $20 million.
Yeah.
So basically, it's $200 million per film. Coming to America, 160 million.
Mm.
When it aired on Amazon, it broke records on Amazon. It brought more subscribers to Amazon, even though they had a huge subscriber, whatever. But it brought more. It was, I think, one of the most popular films on Amazon. It probably still is.
Right.
So you telling me Coming to America film was valued at $160 million. And you see what they did. So this goes back to, again, the inclusion part is that not all money or good money if you don't understand your value in the marketplace. And so if you're selling your stuff, if you're selling your creation to Amazon and Netflix, you're going by what they perceive is going to sell well. They don't understand the Black community.
Exactly.
So they're all about diversity. They're all about, let's just put a Black person that's recognized here just to bring more, people to our platform. So can you kind of touch on that? Because I think in this world that we live in, we kind of get confused between the two. If you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from. And the key to this is actually to buy Black. You know what I mean? All the Black folks out there, when we harness our money and put it in Black companies, that's when we ultimately have the power right there, So the Makeda, the Queen of Sheba, I did a crowdfunding campaign for, in my opinion, it's actually not that much money. It's 10 grand. And we met it. And it was my first time even doing a crowdfund. And that's because we got Black folks out there saying, I want this for my kids, That's the important piece to it. So when people of color put their money, just like other communities, right? Just like if you've got Chinese or Japanese or Mexican communities, any of these other, and it's just culture. It's not even, I'd even say it goes past race. It's more about the culture, African-American, African culture. And when you're down with that culture and you want to listen to this music and the hip hop tracks and dress like this, you need to take your money and put it into the community that's creating that so that the whole community can thrive instead of just a few people here and there. I hope that. No.
That's what I wanted to hear, because I think what happens is it goes back to that key question: who has the power?
Yeah.
Is it the person who builds the kingdom, or is it the person that owns the land?
Yep.
And unfortunately, what happened is a lot of those platforms that owns the land has the power.
Oh yeah.
If you think about it, they don't have the power because they don't create shit.
Mm-hmm.
They have the platform, but have you ever heard a story that Netflix made a film? It's usually outsourced, right?
Yeah,
outsourced.
Right.
It's given the funding, but it's outsourced.
Right.
Just to have stuff on their platform.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's important for us to start owning our own platforms. I mean, that just where it logically goes. For example, when I did create Conscious Culture Publishing, this is my platform. I can create any type of book I want to. I don't have to get a green light from any person out there. If I see something that's going to go well in the Black community, I can put it out, no strings attached. And I believe that all African diverse, all entrepreneurs need to also have that freedom, that leverage, because even once you do get to a certain point where you're bringing in all these, hundreds of thousands up to millions and bringing in that type of money, since you own the platform, all these other bigger companies can do is just partner with you. They can't own your content. You can throw them a couple dollars to help them so that they can help you, but you ultimately have control. And that's what it's all about, that freedom.
And that's the key thing to like what you said, is that when they want to talk to you, they're going to talk to you.
Yeah.
They're not going to talk to your boss. Boss, right?
Yeah. And you can say no. They say, oh, we want to do this. You want to do that? No. And then you're the one showing the direction of where you want to go, instead of, always trying to ask somebody to, get some of what they have instead of you having it. And then actually they end up wanting some of what you have, but it's a choice, and you have that choice instead of not having a choice at all.
And at the end of the day, it's about when you know your value, you have a choice.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's the one situation our people fall into, is that they feel like they don't have a choice. It's like when they create something, they feel like my only options are Amazon and Netflix. Those are my only two. And what unfortunately happens is you have a lot of good content that's on there that kind of get lost. Like, I don't know if you saw this film on Netflix. It came out 2 years ago called See You Tomorrow. It's called See You Tomorrow. It's a film about time traveling, but it's the premise was on police brutality, right?
Yeah.
And so you had these two kids that, because it kind of took similarities to Back to the Future a little bit. Even Michael J. Fox was had a role in it.
Oh, really?
But it was just messing with time travel. But at the end of the day, you can alter time travel, but at the end of the day, the same results is going to happen all over again, or it's going to be a different person, but the same events is going to occur again. Right. But yeah, that was, to me, I thought that was a good movie. I didn't get a lot of buzz. Netflix didn't really promote it a lot, but I felt like if this movie came out came out around the time of the George Floyd, I think it would have been everywhere. So it just depends on when the film is released in certain times. But again, that's some film that I thought was a great film that should have got more love but it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's what we're talking about is control, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to sit up there, look at this film, and say, where are the marketing dollars going? You know what I mean? Are we going to promote here, there? And the type of movies that they're probably going to promote, and it's not going to be that type of movie. So yeah, it just comes back to what we were saying before, having control of your own destiny. And then you can actually put money towards that and make it a success, right? If you think of this also, because I think of, all of this is publishing, but movies, music, books, you all kind of think of it like that. I know you've thought back to a lot of really good albums that you've had and got like zero promotion and zero buzz. And you're thinking like, if they had promoted this thing, it would have blew up. That's the African American experience right there.
And unfortunately, that's the reality.
Yeah.
And then my final question, as a family man, as a man that is a Renaissance man, you have your hands on so many things. What does legacy mean to you?
I mean, it goes back to what I was basically saying before. If I can change some kid's life, then that's what I want my legacy to be. I want my legacy to some kids in a library. They pull out this book, see these beautiful illustrations of people that they've never been experienced for in school, and it makes them get another. And then they start to think about, hey, I am a descendant of kings and queens and pharaohs and philosophers and scientists. I can do anything that I want. That's what I like my legacy to be right there. And that's what it's all about right there. For me.
No, I love it, man. And going back to my Black Avengers, all right?
Yeah.
My third
Here we go.
Would be Ronald McNair.
Ronald McNair?
The man who lost his life in the Space Challenger in 1986.
Oh, wow.
If you study his story, he's a bad motherfucker. He was a bad instrument player. He had a black belt in karate, and just an intelligent brother, just intelligent,
Right.
At a young age, he changed the course of history. I don't know if you know his story. He went to get a library book out, and the teacher wouldn't let him. The librarian wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
And the little man's like, I'm not gonna. He's basically he wouldn't leave. And they called the cops.
Yeah.
The mom came. The cops like, I'm not arresting this kid. He just won a book. And then later, many years later, that same library
Mhm.
has the name on that at the library.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So I would say Ronald McNair, and then the fourth one, I would have to say uh, the fourth one I would have to say to be continued for another show. That was hard. So that's my three, and I'm sticking to it.
Right.
Marlon, thank you for coming on, man. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Will.
you, man. Thank you. What's your where can people find you?
Yo, you want to check out any of these really exciting books? Go to consciousculturepublishing.com. And I mean, it's not just for kids. If you are artists out there and you like comic books and graphic novels, feel free to come pick it up. You can also hit me out at my website, marlon.work. Super easy. Hit me up on IG, Marlon McKenney on IG. Especially for any of you artists out there, if you're trying to figure out like how can you get paid for being creative, because I had to go through the same thing when I was a kid. Feel free to hit me an email or whatever if you need some pointers on how to break into the industry so that you can pay your rent, because I know it's a real thing. Feel free to hit me up. All right.
That's right. Hit them up, but don't hit them up for no money.
I got $2.
Don't send your Cash App name to the brother. No. The only thing you're gonna get is knowledge, but you ain't gonna get no money.
Hey, but with knowledge, you can get all kinds of money.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Facts. With the right knowledge, yes,
that's
you
right.
can get unlimited amount of money.
That's right, and it's all about knowledge. Again, thank you, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.